Hello everybody and welcome to another mystery box function challenge. In the purple box we've got some mystery math and your challenge is to figure out what it is. You can use the link in the description to try this out, and when you think you've got an idea, come on back and see if we get the same thing. Alright, let's start with a 0. Okay, 0 gives us 1. How about a 1? Oh, and there we've got a non-repeating decimal. So maybe trig, maybe a square root function, maybe something else. Let's try a 2. Okay, so it definitely looks like a curve. Let's try a 3. It went down and now it's coming back up. So I'm thinking trig here. Let's put in a 3.14 approximation for pi. And that's basically got us back at 1. We started at 1, and when we get to pi, we get to 1 again. Let's put in pi over 2, or an approximation, so 1.5. And there we're basically at 0. Yeah, okay. So which function is going to be at 1? Which of the trig functions is going to be at 1 when you're at 0, and 1 again when you're at pi, but 0 when you're at pi over 2. So remember here, the x and y coordinates of this line that makes an angle, they're going to be the cosine and the sine. So here at this point, we're at the point 1, 0. So cosine starts out at 1, and up here's pi over 2, and by the time it gets all the way up here, the cosine, which is your x part of the coordinate, is at 0. And then by the time we get here, we should be at -1. But we're at +1. So that's a little monkey wrench in the works there, isn't it? In fact, the shape of this isn't quite right. It looks like it goes down and then it kind of bounces up rather than making, well, actually, rather than continuing down. It should have done, actually, let me do, it should have done this and then come back and hit -1 down here and then come back to 0, but it looks like it's doing the opposite up there. Let's get a couple of values on the negative side too. Okay, and let's do -1.5. Okay, so far that's looking like the cosine, and then you'd expect to go down below here. So let's do a -2. And it doesn't. It does like it does on the other side. It bounces back up. Let's do -3.14. Okay, so I think we have the information we need to solve this, but it takes a little bit of thinking. This looks like the cosine. It certainly looks like the cosine between -pi/2 and pi/2, and then it gets flipped around here in some weird way. Well, it kind of reflects, gives the reflection across the x-axis. So what would cause that? The thing about it is, it's that all of that stuff is happening here in this part of the graph where the cosine is negative. So when the output of this function is negative, it's flipping it to the positive. So what makes something positive when it's negative that we've seen before? And I think that would be the absolute value. So my guess about this one is that we have, but we'll have to test this, the absolute value of the cosine of x. So let's walk this through. If you put in 0, the cosine is 1, and the absolute value of 1 is just 1. At pi/2, the cosine is 0. Absolute value of that is 0, and here we are. And it gets less and less during that time, and that's this portion right here. When we reach pi, the cosine of pi is -1. And here, we're at a +1. So it took that -1 and took the absolute value of it and made it a +1. So can you see how the absolute value sign would do this, would kind of flip it up? Whatever's negative down here, it's going to flip up and reflect it over the x-axis and make it positive. Well, that's what I think is going on, and I think in my head we've tested enough points, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look. Yeah, and there we have the absolute value of the cosine of x, and let's graph that. It's a funny looking graph. Looks like a ball kind of bouncing along the ground. Well, how did that go? I think that was a pretty tricky one. Let me know if you got it. Thanks, everybody.